Here's part 2 of our 2-part series. Today we're going to learn about the backstory of this famous breakfast name on this episode of Antique Bottle Stories. Our story is about two brothers. First, let's talk about John Harvey Kellogg. He was born in 1852. Now, 1852 is 1 year after Sylvester Graham died. He and his brother were one of 17 kids. Here's an 1860 look at their household. Here's John, age 8, and Will would be born later this year. Now, John's first job was working with his dad at his broom shop, but he liked to read and eventually he became a teacher himself. He then went on to New York University Medical College, graduating as a doctor in 1875. When he was 27, he married Ella. Now, they slept in separate bedrooms. They never had any children of their own, but they eventually adopted 42 children who lived with him in his 50-room mansion, according to his obituary. It says that many of his kids became teachers and doctors. And here's a glimpse of his household in 1900 when John was 48 years old. Now, he was really into that clean living movement that Sylvester Graham had taught. He was part of the temperance movement as well, and he also believed that certain foods caused excitement and lustful behaviors, and he believed that eating bland foods helped suppress these urges. One source quoted him as saying, "One should marry, get it out of your system, and then let those urges fade off." As a doctor and a surgeon, John ran the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan, which was basically a Graham house. So obviously they ate vegetarian, they had no alcohol, no tobacco, no sexual activity. There were also healthy daily activities like exercises, hydrotherapy, marches, and here's a picture of breathing exercises, which was thought to aid in digestion. They were big believers in fresh air and getting plenty of sunshine. Here's a photo of the sanitarium dining room, and here it is full. Famous people such as President Taft, President Harding, Amelia Earhart, Henry Ford, Abraham Lincoln's wife, Mary Todd, J.C. Penney, Madam C.J. Walker, and Thomas Edison are just a few of the people that visited the sanitarium. So let's talk about John's younger brother, William Keith Kellogg. He was born in 1860, and he's 8 years younger than John. He also worked at his dad's broom shop. He started at age 7. And at age 20, he married Elmira, and they had, I found 5 children, and I know that 2 of them died. So after Will got married, he ended up working for his brother John. And let me just start by saying that the stories online paint a picture that these two brothers did not get along, and that Will always lived in his older brother's shadow. John would humiliate Will and treat him as a servant. He would make him run errands and do things like shine his shoes and give him a shave every day. Sometimes John would bicycle to work, while he would have Will jog beside him. And even though John had been making millions, he never paid his brother more than $87 a month. Look at Will's face. I mean, doesn't he just look like he's been tortured by his brother all his life? So around the early 1890s, John and Will had been experimenting on making a softer breakfast food for the sanitarium. They developed a dough that was made of wheat, oats, and corn. They rolled it out thin and baked it, and then they broke it apart into small pieces. They called it granola, and it was really popular at the sanitarium. Granose Flakes was another cereal meant to be easily digested and cures constipation. And here's some Granose biscuits. So the story goes that one of these batches got left out overnight one time, and when they went to go send it through the roller, they found out that it baked into little flakes. John had suggested to grind the flakes up into little pieces, but Will suggested to leave them as flakes. A flaked cereal had not been thought of before. So they tried flaking barley, oats, and corn. Corn flakes became really popular after Will had fiddled with the recipe, and he tried using corn grits instead of corn kernels. So this idea became so popular that the boys were having a hard time keeping up with the demand. They started a food company called Sanitas. Now, Ancestry's index directories skip 10 years during these crucial years of their beginnings. But here's 1897, where John is a medical superintendent and Will is running the Sanita's food company. I did see that there were some bottles that say Sanita's Nut Food Company from this time. Now, the story goes that Will saw a huge potential for this cereal, and he tried to convince John to sell it to retail grocery stores. John, growing up with the belief that you should only eat whole foods and you don't eat commercially processed foods, this went against everything that he lived by. So he refused. Not only that, but he would pretty much let anybody come in and see their process, and Will wanted to keep it to themselves. Well, one person named Charles Post came in and he saw the process and he took that idea and he started his own cereal business and he made millions. So Will had come up with some ideas, and he thought that adding sugar would improve the taste of their cereal. But again, John did not approve. So at some point, Will bought his brother's share of the cereal patents, and he started his own business selling cereals. It was called W.K. Kellogg Company. Now, the earliest that I see this company is in 1894. John kept his own food business over there. It was called Battle Creek Food Company. To avoid confusion with his brother's company, Will used his signature on the boxes of cereal. Isn't it interesting how much the Kellogg's logo looks the same as it did when it started? Now, once Will was out on his own, he was a really good businessman. He had all these advanced ideas for advertisements. He was one of the first advertisers to use 4-color magazine ads. He also sent tons of samples everywhere. Here's a newspaper ad saying that Kellogg was going to be at the National Corn Exposition in Omaha, Nebraska, and he was offering a reward for the best corn. He even had somewhat risque ideas, like Wednesday is Wink Day, where a woman would get a free box of cornflakes if she winked at her grocer. And here's one that says the winking thing is over. But I like it. I think he's thinking outside the box. It's different. Will even had Norman Rockwell design cereal boxes for him. Now, his company was one of the first to put nutrition labels on foods. And he was the first to put a prize in the box for kids. In order to help more people find work, he started the idea of making 4-hour shifts, and that way he could put more people to work. Now, John had some troubles when the Sanitarium burned down in 1902. But another sanitarium was built the following year, and it still stands. John also started getting a lot of friction at his church. A prophetess named Ellen White apparently had a sign from God, and here the headline says she started making a fuss, and started a movement to get him expelled. He had been going to that church since childhood, but for whatever reason, he and Ellen had this falling out, and he ended up leaving, and others followed him out. Here's a 1907 article about Will's factory had a fire. It says, a worker noticed a very small fire on the 2nd floor, so he went to go get a pail of water. By the time he got back, the entire floor was ablaze. Most people got out. One dude was an electrician, and he went to go free some wires. It says he was doing it to save others, and he ended up electrocuting himself. It actually went into detail, saying that when he grabbed the wires, his hand flamed up like a torch, and then his head dropped upon his breast. He was 35, married with 2 kids. In 1908, you could buy 3 packages of cornflakes for 25 cents. Notice how many cereals there are now. Grape nuts, one called Cerealine, and shredded wheat. And here are a couple 1909 ads. This one is a 2-page spread in the paper, and it has baseball players endorsing the cereal. This one is a comic strip with these animal friends talking about eating cornflakes at different times of the day. Let's look at this 1910 directory. There are a bunch of Kellogg's listed in here, and I would bet that most of them are John's adopted family. John's Sanitarium is here. His food company is now called Kellogg Food Company, not to be confused with Will's company, Kellogg Toasted Cornflake Company. The next year we see that John's company is doing toasted rice flakes and biscuits. Will is just sticking with cornflakes. In 1912, Will gets hit by the government. Allegations that he's creating a monopoly. This happens to be the same year that his wife died. He ends up remarrying about 6 years later. Now, by the looks of flipping through this 1915 phone book, I would say that John has employed half the town at his sanitarium. It looked like this on several pages. 1916. What is going on here? Will started a candy company? Now, I've never heard of Kellogg's Candy Company. It says here, candy manufacturers. I tried finding stuff in the newspaper or online, and nothing comes up at all. In the paper, I did find that he's got a new wheat cereal called Crumbles. In 1918, the candy company is still there. Here's a 1919 ad for a cooked bran cereal. It says, so you won't be constipated. And for Christmas that year, Will gave all 1,000 of his employees a ham. The ladies also received gifts of candy. By 1921, the candy company is gone. They have an ad on the very first page of the directory this year, and here's the list of all the products that they offer now. Will never lived like a millionaire, but it turned out that Will was very interested in Arabian horses, and he bought 377 acres out in Pomona, California to breed them. In 1932, he donated his horse ranch to the University of California. He also had rare birds. And here's an article talking about how a storm came through and caused a willow tree to topple over on his red-breasted geese's house. The 2 geese were worth about $1,250, and they survived. Will didn't want his kids to get too lazy and feel like they didn't need to work, so he gave away much of his money. Here he is in 1923 building a $500,000 apartment building. Here, he's donated $150,000 for a new school. In 1930, he built a hotel, and it actually still stands, but it doesn't look like anybody's using it. Somebody needs to turn that into an apartment building or something. In 1934, he established the Kellogg Foundation, donating more than $66 million to it. Here, in 1931, for almost the whole year, they ran this ad, talking about trying these peaches on your cornflakes. So supposedly, Will and his brother John never made amends. They didn't talk for almost 40 years. John never gave his brother the respect that he deserved. Supposedly, just before John died, he wrote a letter to his brother apologizing for wronging him. Will didn't receive that letter until a few days after John had died. John died in 1943 at the age of 91. And just look at that face. I can't imagine him being a butthead to his brother. His face is just so jolly. In his obituary, it says that he was an active doctor until he was 90. And it says he wielded a surgeon's scalpel until after his 88th birthday. John's wife had died about 20 years prior. Here's his 50-room mansion. I googled the address, and there's just an empty lot here. And I can't find any story of what happened to it. But the sanitarium, on the other hand, still stands, and it's now called the Hart Dole Inouye Federal Center, which is now mostly government offices now. Will died in 1951 at the age of 91. The papers say that he was blind for the last 14 years of his life. He was worth about $50 million. He kept $2 million, and he donated the rest to the Kellogg Foundation, which helped the community and has given scholarships and grants for children. He did build a mansion, which he had built with the best materials, hoping that it would last for several generations. It still stands, and there is a little video about it on YouTube. There's also a movie called The Road to Wellville, which is loosely based on the John Harvey Kellogg story. Now, Tony the Tiger was debuted in commercials for Frosted Flakes the year after Will died in 1952. Tony the Tiger was created by Hanna-Barbera for the Kellogg Company. And did you know this? There were actually 3 other mascots for Sugar Frosted Flakes. There was Elmo the Elephant, Newt the Gnu, and Katie the Kangaroo. But Tony was the most popular, so the others were eventually dropped. By the way, the word sugar was dropped from Sugar Frosted Flakes in 1983. Okay, I'm going to end here. So I'm going to leave you with a few 1950s commercials because they're fun. And we'll see you next time, guys. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.
I'm Katie the kangaroo. I hop and skip and bounce around. You'd think I was elastic. And with these frosted flakes of corn, I trip the light fantastic.
New Flakes, Frosted Flakes, Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes.
I've got a shape that's rather odd. I'm standing when I crouch. But I've always got my frosted flakes and an extra in the pouch. Love to hop, but I'll always stop.
Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes.
Yes, you'll jump for joy over the sweetest new cereal you ever tasted. Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes. Crispy flakes of corn with sugar sparkling on every golden flake. They're ready to eat. All you need is milk or cream, or eat them right out of the box. And taste, well, as Katie the kangaroo says,
Delightful. So let's all do what the kangaroos do. Get all set to hop. Right up to a box of frosted flakes the next time that you shop.
New Flakes, Frosted Flakes, Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes.
Here's my friend Clark Kent, the star of Superman.
My friends inside are having a very interesting talk. Interesting because it's about my favorite subject, Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes. Listen.
What's the extra bowl for?
It's for Superman, in case he stops in for breakfast.
Hiya, kids.
Hi, Clark.
They're just in time for sugar frosted flakes.
Well, I see you have an extra place set. Were you expecting me?
Nah, Sis here decided to set a place for Superman.
Well, frosted flakes is a cereal Superman says is best.
She's right. Say, do you think it'd be all right if I sit here?
Sure, Clark. After all, even Superman couldn't be in every home that has Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes.
All over the country, kids and grown-ups are discovering the most exciting new cereal ever made, Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes. You like them, too. And it's for taste. Well, Katie?
Delightful.
New Flakes, Frosted Flakes, Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes.
Okay, boys, batting practice. Who's first?
I am, Tony.
You're a batter? Okay, boy. Well, don't just stand there, boy. Hit it.
Hit it? I didn't even see it.
Come on, boy. We'll put a tiger on your team, Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes. Great big flakes of corn sparkling with a secret sugar frosting. Either with milk or right out of the box, Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes are packed with energy.
They're good.
Good? They're great! Okay, boy, let's try it again. Put a tiger on your team with Kellogg Sugar Frosted Flakes.